This whole family is just full of red flags. Every single person is such a red flag. Welcome back to another drama review. Today we're going to go over 4 different dramas, including one brand new drama, which I'm very excited about. First, let's jump right into Ghair. So far, we have episode 13 and 14 that came out just this past weekend, and this is what happened so far. First, we have Salih's mother that survives her attack and stay at the hospital. Everything seems to have come back to normal, and also the feuds and family feuds that were going on, everything seems to end, and it seems like everything has been triggered by his mom getting sick. Salih's mom getting sick. Everyone is amicable again, but Shifa is extremely upset because she's frustrated that she is basically not getting what she wants, and we also see a little bit of Farjad being upset that he feels very betrayed by Wafa. The second episode that aired, episode 14, we see more of this and them establishing their connections again, and we see that the family does not want to accept Wafa, but they're willing to accept Salih because they can't seem to hazm the betrayal of Wafa's mom, but they're okay with forgiving the dad of Salih and everything that he's been doing. So far, I think episode 14 has to be the best episode that has come out so far for this show, because we finally get to see Wafa's acting and personality and character and frustration coming out, because she keeps having to deal with everyone's crap and being ignored and treated as less than, even though she has not really personally done anything, and if anything, she's been accused of things and set up for failure, essentially. The biggest thing I noticed so far in the show, over and over again, I keep noticing the same thing, that people flip so fast in the show. First, they hate you and your guts because of everything that you're doing to them, and they suddenly love you, like just like that. There's like no subtleties, there's no gradual progression, no ups and downs. It's just like, we hate you and now we love you. So a couple of examples: the grandmother hates her daughter Tazim, I think, the older daughter, or Salih's mom, for so long and for so many years, and she doesn't want to see her because of everything she's putting her brothers or her sons through. After the whole hospital situation, she flips and is suddenly taking her side over her sons, which I find really weird, because it's not like they were having disputes over small things. Apparently it was like property and land and whatnot. She suddenly is now like, oh, I'm going to like smack my sons if they try to cause any stress for my daughter now. And I'm like, where was this all those years prior? I don't understand. Salih is also now being well received by his khalus, I guess, because before they hated his guts, Farjad hated him, everyone hated him because of whose son he was, and now they just love him. Salih's dad also turned and has suddenly become a kind, gentle father figure, not just for Salih but also for Wafa, and he's accepting Wafa too, where just an episode prior he wanted to get rid of her and like could not stand the sight of her. And then also they forgive Wafa only because Salih decides to take a stand for her a bit and be like, okay, well, if you guys are going to be like that, and it's kind of awkward for us to just leave Wafa at home and continue to engage with you guys, like it doesn't make sense for you guys to continue to hate her for essentially no reason. Basically, it's them demanding respect for their family, and Wafa is not a part of it, so he's demanding respect for her, you could say, in a very polite, friendly way too. And so they suddenly decide to forgive her. But prior to that, the attitude that the grandmother has been showing has been so frustrating to watch. And also, we don't get to see the Bobbies and the daughters of the Dado, so Tahrim, how they feel about the situation. They also have just suddenly decided to forgive her, and they're just like, okay, whatever, like let's move past this. But you can tell that the younger daughter, Hareem, I feel like she's suspecting something is going on or with Shifa and Salih, and I think she's probably gonna get it out of Shifa at some point, and then also help Wafa, because Shifa is gonna be a little bit snaky about how she's gonna communicate everything to her Pupo, I guess. So of course they're gonna cause more problems for her, basically. And I just have to say that a family or groups of people or just an individual that switches up on you so fast is nothing but a red flag. This whole family is just full of red flags. Every single person is such a red flag. And also, I have to say, Farjad and Shifa are such selfish characters. Farjad cannot see anything else except for what the hurt that he has been inflicted with because of Wafa. But it's not like they were actually in a relationship. Nothing was actually communicated to Wafa, like, I like you, or let's be an item, or whatever it is, right? Nothing was done for that. And then also he took such drastic measures and had such a drastic, insane reaction to the whole situation. How is that Wafa's fault? Like, if he didn't blow everything out of proportion and just talk to people like a normal person, no one would be in this situation. But he just had to do what he had to do and just be aggressive and a man and whatever. And the fact that he expects Wafa to return the watch he gave him, like, the whole conversation, every conversation Wafa had was so good, because she was constantly having to just deal with everyone's crap, and then she was actually throwing it back in their face now. She gave up the watch. She was like, I don't really care. And she was also like, if you think I'm so disloyal and all of that, then why are you even asking me for clarification and all of that stuff? And I feel like Farjad at this point is just going to be manipulated by his sister to interfere or just cause problems for Wafa, whether it's through the business side with Salis or otherwise. At this point, for me, there is nowhere in my mind where I feel like Farjad deserves for his liking of Wafa to happen and like for him and her to be together. Like, I cannot see कि उनका सुलह हो ही नहीं सकता. It's just impossible at this point because of everything that has happened and the way that he's reacted. And my favorite thing was when Wafa was like, what are you gonna do? आप कैसे मुझे देखेंगे? किस नज़रों से देखेंगे? When मतलब सच निकल आएगी. Because throughout all of this, Wafa has tried to clear herself. And from the very beginning, she said it was Shifa, not her, and no one believed her. And eventually, because I guess Wafa understands that Shifa is not going to relent, and probably Salis is never going to truly be like a proper husband to her. So eventually the truth will come out. And I think at that point, like Farjad won't be able to say anything to her, or like बहुत ही ज़्यादा शर्मिंदा हो जाएगा. Then we have his sister Shifa, which I have so many thoughts. I was loving the fact that she was crying all the time, upset and everything. Everyone is so worried for her. And like I mentioned in one of my previous reviews, I love the fact that she can't seem to be comforted by anyone because no one truly knows why she's upset. And everyone is now thinking that she's sick, or ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya. And they, for me, one of my favorite things in episode 13 was the fact that Salis was like kind of defending Wafa, but not really defending her, but just using her as a way to get at Shifa because of what situation he finds himself in. And essentially it's only because he was trying to protect Shifa and he had no other choice. And I was starting to think, oh, maybe he like does care about her a little bit, like Wafa a little bit, but clearly not, because he ends up talking to Shifa at the end of the 14th episode, and the mention Shifa requests that he asks or gives her a divorce so that they can move on, because she's thinking, oh well, like now that everyone is on good terms, like we should be able to make this work. But I'm like, you can't destroy someone's life because you want to make it work for yourself, because you couldn't stand up for yourself when you should have, because you have a crazy brother and crazy family. Like, you can't make Wafa be the receiving person for all of this trauma. Like, why is she having to burden everything? And I feel like it's almost like the mentality is like, oh, she's already badnaam, so what happens if we put something else on her? Like, let's just accuse her of things and say this was her fault, or she's not a good person, she's not a good wife, or whatever. But like, she's literally doing nothing to make anyone think like that. But they're still thinking like that because they want to think like that. They want to believe what they want to believe. That said, it was still like satisfying that he was kind of giving her attitude subtly in front of his mom and being like, yeah, well, like, she looks good regardless because she's my wife, or like, I'm happy because we got married, like that was the thing. That said, so my predictions for the upcoming episode, first of all, I did see the trailer and it does look like he's going to propose the fact that they should just continue with their marriage for a short period of time and then end it. And I feel like Wafa will not want to take part in this, but realize that she doesn't have a choice, and at the end of the day he's going to do whatever he wants to, so she might as well prepare herself or try to figure out a way for her to have like an actual plan when this whole thing ends. And I think she's just gonna suffer the entire time, because that's a shitty way to go out, you know what I mean? I think Farjad will realize that Waqi, oh my god, I think actually like I think actually Shafa and Salis may eventually end up together, and I want to reject this possibility so much, but I'm starting to think that this may actually happen. And when that happens is when Farjad, or when that idea and we're going towards that direction and people are proposing or whatever, I think that is when Farjad is going to realize that Wafa was right and that he should have killed his sister, but too late, and what can you do? And at that point, he's going to be extremely apologetic. But if Wafa goes to him, I will be pissed because he is not the one for her. Someone else is. I don't know who, but that is not it. And it's really upsetting because I'm starting to like Salis for Wafa. And I mentioned again in one of my previous reviews that I just felt like they should not be together, but they have no other choice. I really like Salis's personality, and he can be a nice fun guy. He has that fun energy, whereas Farjad does not have that. He's extremely uptight. His face is always so pissed. So I like him better as a person, as a character, but I just don't. I feel like Salis and Shafa do not deserve their happy ending. They deserve a Romeo and Juliet ending where they do not end up together and they end up, Those are my thoughts, at least for now, on Ghair. I'm really excited for the upcoming episodes, so let's see what happens. But let's move on to the next show I want to talk about, which is Duniyapur. The Duniyapur episode 6 just recently released, and honestly, a lot of things are going on. So first of all, Noor's Adam, which is the guy that is played by Nauman Ijaz, he is captured. There's a hit out on him, and it looks like the person that's going to be doing it is going to be the servant man who actually also killed his son in a previous episode. It looks like both the son of Noor's Adam, whose name is Shamyl, and the daughter, or the last surviving child of Nayab, will be both trying to do whatever they can to get control of Duniyapur, alongside the fact that the police are trying to do whatever it is they're trying to do, which is gain control of Duniyapur in some capacity. The servant man of Noor's Adam is also trying to get control, and then I'm sure there's a couple more people, like the Chacha, that wants control. There's a lot of people that are interested in gaining control over Duniyapur, because right now it's quite unstable and people are not they basically lost control and power in different areas. And there are people that have passed away, so it's this huge battle of trying to figure out who is going to be ending up on top. It looks like there's going to be a lot of betrayal, like I mentioned again in a previous episode or review, that it seems like the whole show surrounds around control, power, and also just a lot of betrayal and disloyalty and donamri. I noticed that they keep bringing up Nimra, who is the young daughter that got married to the super old Nayab guy. It looks like she's going to be playing some kind of role, but I think what's going to end up happening is she's most likely just going to be a pawn that is used by Ramsha Khan's character Anna, because it seems like while she understands that the wives of her father are a problem, she's going to use them the best she can. It was also really interesting to see how the contrast between Nimra and then Anna, who is trying to rule Duniyapur and is having to prove herself. She kills some of the business people, or the people that are beneath her, that are challenging her role and her right to be a ruler, because of the fact that she's just a girl. That scene was intense. I was not totally expecting that, but then I was also because the female character has to prove herself, she's probably going to do something drastic, so I wasn't totally surprised, but it was a nice surprise nonetheless. And then we have Shamyl, who is now also more determined in trying to gain control of Duniyapur, but it looks like right now he just wants to go see his dad in jail. I don't really know what that's all about. Basically, the absolute ending of the episode, he is going with all his men and some guns to the police station, and I feel like they're going to try to forcefully take him out, but I don't understand how that is going to be allowed. I'm not really sure how that's going to play out, but let's see. And the final thing I really wanted to point out was Noor's Adam's mom suddenly is super emotional about her son having to be taken to jail and taken away from her. And it's so funny because if you again look at my previous review, I mentioned how they don't seem to care about the grandchildren or their children, Noor's Adam and his mom don't care, but Noor's Adam's wife does care about her children dying because she's the mom, but the grandmother didn't seem to show like any concern until there was a chance that her son, Nora's Adam, would possibly die in the shootout, and so she tells him to surrender. So like, kya kehte hain, this is so like hypocritical, because again, at the end of the day, she cared more about her son than the grandson and the grandchildren. Now with the show, I'm honestly not sure which direction it's gonna go, because I'm actually having some trouble following the characters, because some of them look the same or similar to me and I don't know their names. Like, it seems like what they're gonna show is Ramsha Khan, so Anna, and Shamir or Khushhal Khan, they're going to probably get involved in some capacity in the next episode, and moving forward at some point I think they will like each other or try to use each other because they want to get control somehow. But I feel like they're gonna form some type of alliance in order to prevent other people, the police or their servants, from gaining control. So let's see how that goes. Yeah, that's about it. Let's talk about Bismil. So Bismil, episode 21 and 22 I believe is what came out, and honestly I feel like there wasn't too much going on. It was just a lot of emotions, a lot of people feeling overwhelmed by the whole situation. First we see Titi, Reham and Musa are basically trying to navigate the situation that they find themselves in, and it's mostly at the fault in the hands of, let's be honest, Titi, because it seems like at the end of the day he just wants to do whatever he wants to do, and he is not prepared to deal with any consequences, because at this point he has dealt with them, and now he just wants his family to just live with the consequences of his actions and just accept the fact that he has married someone else. Obviously Musa is really upset, and so he does end up in a car accident, but he's not terribly injured. Reham of course faints, and all of this is, these are really intense things that are happening as a result of this newfound information of their dad, and the fact that DT refuses to let go of that girl. He's not that concerned, it seems, actually, about any of this, because at the end of the day, like, if his family is alive and well, he doesn't really care, and he expects them and demands of them to just move on, essentially, which is kind of messed up. And then we have the fact that Reham and Musa are trying to figure out how to get control or get the dad back on their side and to leave Masuma, and basically they're thinking that if Musa's fiance comes back and we invite her family and everyone and move forward with his wedding process, then eventually he will realize the error of his ways and just leave behind all that stuff, or Masuma and all that drama, and just come back into reality. But it does not look like that is going to be the case. On the flip side, we see Masuma is asking for a divorce, and she is basically essentially just trying to play hard to get, because her end game and goal is to get into TT's original house. She does not want to be a secondary person, and she does not want to be on the side. She wants to be in his life all the time, and I think it's mostly just out of spite. It's not because she, just loves him so much or whatever. Like, she is looking for blood at this point and trying to tear apart his family. Her childhood best friend is also brought up a couple of times. I don't really understand why, but it's funny because at the end of the episode, she reassures her friend Zubi, his mom, that I was never interested in him and I will never be interested in him, and primarily it's because she's just after money at this point, and she just doesn't care. She is just trying to light a fire and go down with it, apparently. Honestly, at this point, the show is entertaining, I guess, to watch. I'm not as invested as I was, and honestly, like, my enthusiasm for the show has continued to go down because it just seems so like unrealistic what's going on, and I feel like TT is not thinking very clearly. I feel like and I saw the promos, and it seems like she does eventually return to his main home. I don't know how I feel about that. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable, and I don't feel happy for, what TT is doing to himself and to his family. And it seems like they're going to be experiencing a lot of more tension and stress, but it seems like he is just so in love and enamored with this girl, which I am finding so hard to believe at this point because of how she has been with him for so long. I'm leaning on the edge of I should drop this show, but I feel I've already put in so much time into it, so maybe I should continue watching it. If you guys really like the show, let me know in the comments down below and I'll continue watching it. but I don't know if it's worth me even like making a video about at this point, you know. I was hoping before I saw the trailer for the next, or the promo for the next episode, that he would like straighten out with the fiance or his son's fiance coming in, the family coming, but it looks like that is not going to be the case. And it looks like, if anything, things are just going to escalate and get worse, because it seems like, I almost feel like he is like in this like episode where he just does not care. He wants to do whatever he wants to do, and everyone else has to deal with it. And I think TT thinks that he doesn't look bad because at the end of the day, on paper, what he did is like halal and okay to do, but the suffering he is causing his wife and the embarrassment to his wife and also his son is on another level, and he just does not seem to care. Like, it's so uncomfortable in the promo to watch him. The way he's acting, it seems like he's like in a manic episode or something. Like, he's just like, whatever, I'm just gonna do whatever I want. I'm buying this jewelry for her, for the person I'm cheating or was cheating on my wife with. Like, it's just so weird. So yeah, I don't know, we'll see what happens in this upcoming episodes. And finally, we have the newest drama and probably the most entertaining drama so far in this review, Yahya, which has just aired its first 2 episodes, and I'm really excited to talk about it. Alright, so Yahya is a sole brother of a family of 4 sisters and lives with his mom, dad, and dado, and of course, because he is the only son and he has 4 sisters, who do you think is our North Star in life? Yahya. Why? Because he's a boy, and that's it. There's nothing else. He is treated with so much love and affection, and everything about his life is being watched, and he's constantly being preyed upon and all of these things, and it's a little bit like uncomfortable to watch, like the level of obsession. Man, like, you're just a person. You're just one of 5. You're not just one of 1. You're one of 5, okay? You're one of 5 siblings. Act like it. But his grandmother gives him special treatment, the mom and the dad special treatment, and most of his sisters also give him special treatment because he is the only son. And so there is all this love and affection and attention that's given to him, but at the same time, it looks like he also has some pressure and some expectations, and it seems like he's not really following through on them. And honestly, that's not a good enough reason for him to be expressing like stress or whatever. I feel like if you talk to a lot of guys, they feel like they have these pressures to provide, and especially if you're like the only son or the only brother. But I feel like that's the structure or the society that you're in, and you're choosing to continue to engage in that way and benefit in all of those ways. So if you now have those pressures, there's a little bit of tension between him and his sisters, because his sisters are always they're always secondary, the brothers are always first. And I feel like that's pretty prevalent in like most Pakistani like households. Like, the brothers are like amazing, and then the girls are just there to exist and give away. But what's interesting is it seems like he has all of his sisters are actually older than him. It's funny because I was not able to pick that up, but I picked it up in the second episode, because we realize he has a couple older sisters, and his sister that is the oldest is unmarried, and we find out that why she's unmarried, and we also understand that she is unhappy with the special treatment her brother gets because she's always considered like as an afterthought. We find out that the second oldest sister got married sooner than the first sister, and this always tends to create this kind of like weird thing where it's like, if the first sister didn't get married and the second one did, now it's going to be harder for the first sister to get married. And in this special family's situation, what it is in the dowry for the sister that got married, everything was supposed to go for the oldest sister, but now everything's been used up on the second sister, and now they don't have that much money. And then you see that there's always a concern for money, as there always is in Desi households, but all of it is basically always being spent on the son, and he's not even working. So let's talk about everything that's going on. I didn't even realize this guy is graduated and should be looking for work, but he's not working because he's having some trouble finding work, I guess. And the other thing is he's actually spending all his free time just playing cricket and hoping to get drafted, I guess. We see that the parents are constantly, and the grandmother is extremely unfair with all of the daughters, and they've just been trained to think of themselves as secondary, and so they're constantly expected to run errands for him, and just everything, like he gets the nice meals first, he gets to sit down first, he gets to make sure we have to make sure he has everything first, and then you can consider having a meal or sit down with us and all of that. Everyone is when people come to see them and visit them and enjoy company, it's because of Yahya, the brother, and not for anyone else. Everyone else, you can't spend money on them, but we can spend, you know, the several thousands of dollars that was spent to scapegoat for him as sadqa, I guess, because he grew up to be a strong, healthy boy. And the parents and the grandparents, they have so many duas for him, but nothing for the other sisters. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, like, you're just there. I think it's going to be so interesting to see the interaction between Yahya and Bushra, his oldest sister, because there is so much tension there, like I mentioned, and it seems like I can understand why Bushra feels the way she does. But can I just say, I think she's supposed to be like over 30, but I think she's supposed to be like 32, but like they made her look older than she actually is. And some of the other actors that are playing young actors are actually like in their 30s or something. So I feel like you're giving this like distorted view of what an expired or aged out woman looks like, and it's just really interesting to see that. But one thing I really enjoyed in the show was that they are not focusing just on the brother and the struggles that he's going through. We very much get to see what his sisters are going through, even the married sisters, and I feel like the show is doing a good example of showing what it's like to be a woman in a Desi household before you get married, when you're trying to get married, and also when you do eventually get married, because there's struggles throughout. So we see the sisters that are not yet married, and they're just like constantly doing errands and running around for their brother and to do things for their family. I was gonna say for his parents, but they're also their parents. But they're constantly doing errands and running errands for them, and everything is constantly taken for granted. Then we have the sisters that are trying to get married, the oldest sister, the forgotten sister, and she's so frustrated because it's hard to get like a rishta the older you get. And on top of that, other sisters have gotten married, her co-workers are getting married, the co-workers that are much younger are getting married. She's just been left behind, and she is obviously like, you can like, she comes off very like upset and angry and aggressive, but you can also tell that she's just sad and hurt by constantly being let down by her parents, because she's constantly considered like a second thought, which is crazy because she's the oldest in the whole family. You would think that would not be the case, but it is. And then we have the sister that is already married, and usko to sara kuch mil gaya, usko dowry bhi mil gaya, jahez, whatever it's called. You know, she has like a nice husband and she's happy and she has all these kids and whatnot. But of course, you can see that there are some subtle tensions in her life as well. She gets along with her husband just fine, and she comes and visits the family, and she says like, you know, like he's very flexible, but so like don't worry about it, takalaf karne ki koi zarurat nahi hai. But then afterwards you also hear her mention how she's not really allowed to stay at her parents' home, like she doesn't stay the night or anything like that. But of course, if his sister or her nand says, you know, you should do that because they need her to do something, then he, you know, relents, and then he's like, okay, it's fine. But clearly not all that glitters is gold, because she doesn't have the freedom, it seems, to just stay over at her parents' house whenever she wants. And clearly she's been married for many years because she's had kids, and it looks like they're between like the 5 and 8 year range. Then on top of that, of course, khali johar ke nakhre nahi dekhne hote, nando ke bhi dekhne hote hain, right? And you see the nand is like, you see her mention how we have to be very careful and make sure she gets a big slice and a bigger slice than everyone else, because otherwise wo shikayat karengi ke mujhe itna kam mila, kyun mila, or whatever. So, you know, like, it's so many, kuch na kuch dekhna padta. It's so annoying though. And it seems like they're doing a really good job of showing all the different delicate relationships there are in Desi families, and it's really nice to see actually. And if you look at some of the scenes, it's so nice because it seems so wholesome, because you get to see all the family together, and it seems like it's so less intense compared to some of the other shows that I'm watching, that it's so wholesome to me. But I feel like it's gonna be a very stressful but interesting show going forward. And also I'm predicting that his friends, kya uska naam hai, Yahya, I feel like, not his friends, I would say they look more like colleagues to me. I feel like they're going to turn on him and attack him at some point, and his injury that he has might get worse and he won't be able to play or get drafted, and it's going to be really sad. So I'm not looking forward to that for him. But also it seems like in the third episode we're going to find that the oldest daughter, Bushra, has someone that is interested in her, and I feel like she might actually consider that person. But of course, uska rishta tay ho jayega with the person that her sister's nand or technically her own cousin, suggest. So it'll be interesting for her to have to navigate and again be let down by her family. Oh, and another thing with the sister that's married, it is crazy to me. Like, she's on eggshells around her nund, but if you think about it, the nund is actually her cousin. So it's like, it's so interesting. One thing I noticed in these relationships with Ghair and also this show and many other shows is the fact that ये रिश्ते ना वाकई बदल जाते हैं शादी के बाद, and it's like it doesn't matter if you guys got along really well as cousins, you guys are really good friends and whatever. At some point, it's just like, oh well, I'm going to use my position in your relationship now that you are married as a way to get my way, and I'm going to disregard your feelings, and this is just how things are because नाइंसाफ़ी होती है बहू के साथ or भाभी के साथ or whatever. And I'm like, I am not liking this exposure of Desi culture and the Desi ways that people have, but it's okay. It's still interesting. This is the reality for a lot of people, and I'm really, really looking forward to upcoming episodes for this show. Probably out of the 4 shows that I've reviewed today, this is probably my favorite. But that brings me to the end of my review. Let me know in the comments down below what shows you guys are watching, what you thought of these shows that I'm watching, and if there's any other shows that I should be watching. Let me know in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.